Pulsar.
Yes.
You watched a show recently called Megalo that I told you to watch, specifically for this thing we're doing now.
Yeah, it was great.
So I watched this show about 3 years ago and I remember it being okay. It was like the most on the level of kind of watchable that I was able to stand, which is kind of why I threw it at you.
Yeah. You and I seem to have a different idea of what is watchable, because that was, by and large, a train wreck.
So, from my memory of what the show was, it was about a guy named Joe. And he was like, I want to make money boxing, I guess. Or he just had something to prove, probably both. And he had a coach that was like, I definitely won't fix your fights, and he did. And the whole premise of the show was, you're gonna box, but you've got like cool mechanical equipment. And then that all just stops being true like on episode 3 for Joe, the main character, and then it just stops being true at the very end of the first season. And we only got through the first season, both of us, right?
Yeah. You said I could stop, and I was like,
oh. Thank God. So
that was the greatest gift you could give me, is not having to watch more Megalobox.
When I say watchable, this was not me watching alone. I was watching with 2 other people.
Yeah, I was watching alone, which made it miles more obnoxious.
I remember a good number of pain points of the show being, the start was pretty slow. The kids in the show, I don't remember their names, but they were really annoying and they kept being around. The entire fact that the point of the show looked like it was cool boxing with mechanics, and then it just wasn't. And also the boxing part was kind of boring. And then it looked like we got the worst ending possible at the end, and everyone was just like, no, this is fine. Not the worst, but definitely like not a good, like just confusion. Just confusion overtook me at the end. I'm like, why are we making these choices? This is weird.
So, okay. I have episodes upon episodes of notes, which I'm tempted to release in the description just so people can be like, damn. I don't know if you want to do that though. That's just I just scrolled down to look at my notes for episode 13, which is the season 1 finale.
Yeah.
And it's just, I feel insulted. To give you the general plot arc, because you made me watch it, I'm gonna give you the deets as I can.
Okay.
So episode 1 and 2, Joe is actually nameless. He is not a civilian, therefore he does not have a name or something. It's really contrived. But he goes by Junk Dog or Junkyard Dog or something, because he is a junkyard dog fighting in the underground. And I was like, that's at least kind of neat. But
all right,
there was one thing that was pretty distracting to me, and the fact that he just travels in a motorcycle sometimes. There's no plot relevance. He's just on a motorcycle for some scenes. I guess
he's a free man.
Yeah, I guess
the motorcycle's the most free thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. This is what I knew going in from asking people about it. It is about boxing. In quotations, it has a soundtrack.
It does have a soundtrack.
And people think it's mid to bad.
That's accurate.
That's
accurate.
At first I thought they were going for a Sasuke thing with this guy, but it seems more like they're going for boxing Spike Spiegel with time.
Can you explain what you mean by either of those?
So, it was just because he didn't say anything for the first 5 minutes of the show, and it was only shots of him on a motorcycle looking like he got hurt. So I was like, damn, that's pretty Sasuke.
That is, yeah.
And the Spike Spiegel thing is just because of his head shape and curly hair.
Okay.
Like, it's like they took the worst elements of hand-drawn animation and put them into digital animation. If that makes sense.
Can you elaborate?
So, hand-drawn animation a lot of times was taken on cameras. It's all pictures that are of drawn cells. So a lot of them kind of have a yellow tone to them. That is what I got looking at this show. Everything was kind of like brown yellow. Just about every fight in the show goes like this. Joe gets into the ring with a guy. He gets the shit kicked out of him. He punches them once. Okay, Joe won.
Yeah, I remember that being a weird thing. I think sometimes they're like, oh, look at this strategy thing and whatnot, but it's like, I don't know. It doesn't feel the same when he gets one hit knockout on the guy, while Joe has no mechanical parts to work with. Like, I don't mean it as like oh no, my immersion's broken. It's more of like, I'm not understanding the point of making him go in without the parts, where the one advantage you'd think he'd have, which is just that he's faster and lighter, is now gone.
They did eventually kind of like double back and be like, the thing with him not having gear is it's cool because he can hit them faster and is less predictable. It's like, that's it.
That's it? What do you mean hit them faster? It's so
his
dumb.
It's just because his gear was a piece of shit. I don't like Nambu. Nambu is probably one of the worst characters in the show.
Nambu is the most boring form of the sleazy coach archetype.
And there is one episode I am actually on his side for, because he just gets the worst fucking situation for no reason. Moving on from episode 1 to episode 3, they're like, oh dang, Joe's gear got broken. We gotta go get him a new one. So they go to a pawn shop, which is where the kids get introduced. Okay, the first note I had in this episode was, don't tell me the kids are important. Note 4 is the kids are important, frowny face. And then literally Potemkin.
Actually named Potemkin
from Guilty Gear.
Comes up.
Is like his bodyguard. And it turns out this random pawn shop has Yuri's prototype gear.
Yeah, for just cuz.
Potemkin grappled the child.
As he does.
And then Joe motorcycled through the wall and hit him with the bike.
That was pretty cool.
That was
probably the one cool action shot in the entire show about boxing.
Joe steals the gear, puts it on to fight Potemkin, and immediately breaks, and he kicks the shit out of Potemkin anyways. No gear moment.
No gear moment.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. And like episode 3, 2-ish, they get into the city, and Joe gets a fake ID. And then
that's whatever. I mean, like, who cares?
Yeah. They pretend it comes up at the end.
I've not seen any like boxing shows before, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know how boxing could be done well, but from my understanding, it's been done well more than once before.
Okay. Let me give you an alternative, and this is obviously a lot more kid friendly. Right. Dragon Ball.
I mean, you're right. Yeah.
Like
as
sure,
much
it has
as
lasers, but we have mechs. As much as wild with it.
Not only that, but as much as like, Dragon Ball does eventually devolve into yell to get more powerful and hit people, Goku does come up with a lot of actual strategies, especially during like the Frieza fight.
Or not even like even as a kid, dude did the after image technique in the World of Martial Arts tournament, and that fucked up everyone but Tien.
Which is scary.
Because Tien could use it.
He also had 3 eyes. It's just like there wasn't any creativity or much learning into what boxing is. Like, either would have been fine. Either go off the rails and just have weird, cool mech stuff happening, or get really detailed and learn about boxing and start, like, really learning everything.
Joe is the worst example of a Mary Sue.
I don't
know if he actually fits Mary Sue, because not everyone likes him, but it's pretty close. He's god modded.
He doesn't feel like a character.
Well, he's the concept of Punch.
The way everyone interacts with him and the way he interacts with the world around him, he feels like a player character in like a Oblivion or Skyrim game.
I forgot that I don't think Joe lost. but there was his opponent in like the first Megalo box match was getting like super hype about the fact that he was beating him. The guy he fought was like placed 150 and Joe was the bottom. This man is flexing on the guy in last.
He's
who didn't bring punch gear.
Look.
What is there to flex? That is like saying, I beat up the child. So the next fighter that Joe fights is a veteran. He's got beef with Nanbu. Because Nanbu was the guy who coached this guy originally. And the entire time Nanbu's like, I don't understand why he has beef.
We can't trust Nanbu though.
Yeah, but here's why he has beef. Because the entire time Nanbu thought this guy was dead. He got reported as dead, he was missing in action, and nobody told him anything. He was alive. Like, his only attempt to try to reach Nanbu was to go to the gym where he used to work well after he was announced dead.
Yeah.
And this is where this is written in the 60s shows. Because if Nanbu had a cell phone, he could have immediately been like, hey, yo, dog, what's up?
It was definitely that, like, man, you really didn't try to find him.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, Aragaki is the veteran's name. I was looking at names. So Aragaki has spent probably like a decade just beefing.
While you've been screwing around for 10 years, he's been honing the anger.
He's been
like
honing
a true
the anger.
Chia.
He was the real Sasuke.
We were wrong.
Episode 5 is where they start to do this thing where they start a fight in one episode and then finish it in the first 2 minutes of the next episode. And it's Joe blocking the entire time.
Did he only start blocking forever now?
No, he's been blocking pretty much the entire time. I don't know why people think Joe's a good fighter when he is a good fighter, but if you spend 90% of the match blocking, no one's gonna think you're impressive.
He's legitimately just doing the Homer Simpson tactic, right? So in theory, he's being hit by muscle and steel, right? So he's taking blows he should not be able to block. However, he just does, and then he just hits at the end. This is literally the same thing where it's like, oh yeah, Homer has such a small brain that any hits to the head don't actually hurt him that much. So he just sits there, takes a beating, and then throws a punch. This is that, but there's no explanation.
So after Joe fights someone with no legs, and aka Aragaki, and wins, I feel like he shouldn't even be in the bracket. It feels unfair to him.
He signed up for it.
I guess so.
If he wants to fight, he can fight.
And then Aragaki goes over to Nanbu, and he was like, I actually wasn't mad at you.
Then why do we spend 2 episodes on this?
That's what I'm saying! There was one major issue that I had with running through a majority of the show, and that is anytime they want to show something from a character, they use express language, like say exactly why the thing, and then flashback.
So they're doing like a double, they're doing tell, don't show, and then literal show, don't tell.
And the show don't tell part is still bad.
It's not like through their actions or something. It was just like, this is exactly what occurred. And you're like,
yes.
Am I in a court case?
Yeah. So, for example, one of the main characters, who is like Joe's, the child that hangs out with Joe and Nanbu, who like gives him water pretty much, like, and
the water boy.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a tech kid, but he doesn't have gear.
They put a tech kid on their team, and they still never gave him gear.
Yep.
You know what this is like? This is like those video game challenges where it's like, can I beat Mario without collecting 1 coin?
Can I beat Megalobox without gear?
Without gear, but we've never seen what normal Megalobox is.
Sure we have. We saw a couple episodes where Joe had gear that did actually nothing for him, and he punched with it. So with specifically Sachio, what they would do is they were like, do you know what's wrong with this kid? Yeah. I found out from a photo we had that this dude who looked at him, which is the only time they've really foreshadowed anything, was a scene where some guy looked at him kind of funny, and I was like, wow, you actually are building something here. Then Nanbu went to go talk to that guy, and he was like, yeah, I worked with his dad.
Oh.
And his dad got killed by big corporation. Or something.
Happens.
I don't know why I didn't write that down.
I guess it just wasn't important in the end, right? Like, let's be honest, we're trying to figure out what's wrong with the kid whose only skill doesn't apply to the team, who doesn't really do anything, and isn't much of a moral support or like an interesting character.
So we have like 3 episodes of build-up for this fight with Mikiko and Joe. And then it just goes with everything else, except for this time his opponent's an incel.
It's true.
And there was like a lot of weird sexual energy shots between Yukiko and Mikiko, and I did not like that.
That's very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I don't remember that at all. I guess I just blocked that out.
Shirato, that's the name of the company.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird, like, I get it that the world they live in is like, if you aren't corporate elite, your life sucks.
Yeah.
But it really just, I felt like they wanted to both be subtle and very ham-fisted with it, and we just got the worst of both.
Okay, so are you ready for how Mikiko's armor works and how Joe beat him?
What you got for me?
So he is like synced up with an AI, and over time the AI reads his movements a little bit better and understands them more, so they kind of fuse into the same person. So I think that's why he took it extra personally. His sister didn't want anything to do with his shit, because the robot was getting mad.
Because the robot was getting mad.
Yeah. He was like, at certain points, he was like, I'm 100% AI.
I think he just has a problem.
And then, the only way Joe won was just to not punch back, because his armor is programmed like a Super Smash Brothers CPU, in that it only reacts.
Do you think this guy originally was just a Smash player, and then he decided to get really hard into boxing? He's like, "Oh, dude, I'll just use the AI." Guy who's only seen Boss Baby before built an AI, so he just dodges, doesn't punch, and then what is his suit just freak out and he just loses?
Joe just gets a good punch on him.
Every time.
Every time. I'm telling you. I entirely forgot about this one piece of dialogue that absolutely destroys the entire point of the gear shit, and it is from Yuri, the guy with the best gear in the game.
And yeah.
Everyone is equal in the ring. You either win or lose. My brother in Christ, you have literally every advantage.
Like, I'm gonna jump towards the end of the show here for a moment, because I feel like a large part of what Megalobox is further deconstructed by what that season finale was.
Yes.
So, Joe goes through the tournaments, he does stuff, we can discuss that part later. But he basically from the start wants to fight the main reigning champion, Yuri, who kicked the shit out of him at the start. And then Joe was basically like, I believe out of just wanting to be better or something to prove, was just like, no, I'm going to fight him and win.
They got rival boners.
Yeah, happens. But like, Joe was something like, show me your true Megalobox.
Megaloboxing.
And for some reason, that translates into, hey, let's just normally box.
Yeah.
Without the Megalo. So
Yeah.
none of it is true Megalo box.
It's just box. And I would be pissed as the person running that entire organization for my top two guys to not use the thing I'm fucking selling.
Right? Like, why is this a thing that A is happening, B is allowed to happen, C, what's the point? I don't get the point. They get to the end, right, and then Joe's like, show me your true Megalo box. So Yuri says, okay, and then this whole time he's had, like, his Megalo box thing grafted to his skin, right? That's like, it's like a part of him, and it's like way more sleek, way stronger. And then he decides, well, if I'm going to do a true Megalo box, I'm going to remove it from my body. And all of his doctors like, hey man, that's really unhealthy to do, especially if you're going to step into a boxing ring after. You don't want to do that, or if you do, you want to give it at least a few weeks or months, not 3 days. And he's like, no, I'll do it. So then he just does it, and then he's in tremendous pain for 3 days, because I guess he just didn't want to take painkillers while living in a shack.
Yep.
And then he goes to fight Joe, and it's the most non-whatever fight.
They went on for 13 rounds.
Yeah, but we didn't see any of it, right? It was just...
Sorry, 15 rounds. Yeah, we didn't see any of it. It was just, like, a slight montage of them, like, faded over each other, punching, and Joe not punching, as
so
usual.
The whole point of what I was excited to get into the show for, which was cool mech stuff plus boxing, turned into not cool mech stuff and just the idea of boxing. And it just whittled down more and more as time went on.
Oh, also, they also try to use the setup that they had with Joe's fake ID. So Sachio was asked to go with the Shirato lady, and then she was like, "All right, I guess." And I was like, "You're not gonna fight that. You're kind of being forced to raise a child." Okay, whatever. So it fell. The ID falls out of his hat because he was storing it in there like a dumbass.
Of course.
She picks it up and she's like, "Hey, so this is fucked up," and everyone's like, "Oh!" Then she's like, "I'm not gonna do anything with it."
Cool, thanks.
So why did we set this up? Maybe it comes up in season 2. I genuinely could not tell you.
Maybe. I will never know, because I don't have the patience to sit through season 2 of this.
YouTube video gets 1 million likes, I will watch season 2 and tell you. That is my promise, YouTube. And I set the number high because I know you guys can't do it.
Let's not do 1 million. Let's say 100,000.
100,000?
100,000.
100,000 likes, and I'll watch season 2.
100,000 likes.
I will give you...
Actually, 100,000 is even a lot. Oh, whatever.
I will give you... It's a lot for us.
So, we're about, what, at the last fight now? In terms of timeline?
Yeah, so this is about when they lose all their gear. And I quite, in all caps, typed, this show is just fucking boxing now, as we discussed earlier.
Yeah. So I know we talked about the start, but I do want to iterate once again. The entire show looks and sells itself on check out its gear boxing. The promotional art looks like Joe boxing with gear. They show gear
literally
boxing at the start.
Guns.
There is like a mechanic kid on their team. No gear used on a whole character. Half the fights have no gear because of Joe. And at the end, Yuri, the big guy with the incredible tech they've been talking about since like the start of the show, that what's the girl's name?
Girl. Oh,
the Yukiko. Just talking about like, yep, it's the best. I'm the best in the business. It beat my brother who thought his was so cool. Basically, it's just better. It's just not a part of the conversation anymore.
We see it
You took the, what's that one trope or thing, the rule in film?
Oh, I know what
Chekhov's
you're talking about. Yeah, no, wait, Chekhov's? Maybe? I think so? Yeah.
Whatever dude's gun, right? You took that concept and you did the exact opposite. Where you're like, I'm going to show this gun every scene I can. and then at the end, I'm going to dismantle it and throw it away and say, nope, that's not a real fight.
Yeah, so it's funny because this ruins 2 rules of literary writing.
2 rules. Okay, I'm excited.
It also gets rid of Occam's razor, which is if it's not important, get rid of it.
That's been half the show.
This show ends with Occam's razor coming in and being like, "Wait, why are we here? You don't need that. There's boxing now." So before we go on to something else, they kind of like kept it ambiguous as to who won for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, they punch around for a bit, and then they both do their anime like punch each other with one swing thing, right?
Yeah.
And then it fades off, and then I don't quite remember how
like catch up
shows.
with every other character except for Joe and Yuri until we see Yuri hanging out with his dog in his wheelchair and Joe getting a bunch of like pink and green looking toys, which turn out to be gear for the children that have been hanging around the entire time.
So, before and during the fight, the way Joe got Yuri to remove all of his gear and go at him without it was he was like, don't you want this fight to be the most extreme possible fight it can be? Which again, doesn't make sense because there's nothing specific about this fight being the most intense at all.
I also want to point out, as just visually and like actual use case, Potemkin had the most unique gear because his looked like a tractor that had been stapled to him that he put fists on. Like concrete fists.
That does sound cool.
It's so much.
That's the kind of creativity I was wanting from this, and it just didn't show up.
Why didn't we have someone who had like fireballs coming out of his hands?
It's just like I said, we got the worst case of not wanting to learn about boxing and not interesting enough to dive into cool, random, crazy stuff, where everything was boring and milquetoast. So the whole thing is Joe wants to fight Yuri without parts, and he's like, this will be the true extreme boxing match. This is a real boxing match. A real Megalo box match. As if everyone has forgotten we can just punch each other without parts. I don't understand it. I don't know why. I don't know why that drilled into Yuri so much. They acted as if Yuri wasn't going to be able to fight after this day. Right? That was how everyone acted. Despite the fact that there was nothing stopping him from later just removing the thing and then fighting Joe normally. No, they had to act like he had some kind of terminal illness and he was going to die in the next few days. So he wanted to go all out or something. And then, funny enough, at the end, Yuri gets hit so hard he becomes paralyzed from it, and then he's happy about it. He's like, I did fight as hard as I can. I'm like, you could have fought harder tomorrow.
You could get new legs. We have a guy who has them.
That's true. It's possible in this world. But now you just do this, and now they opened a boxing school for kids in the middle of nowhere, basically, that didn't look anywhere else in the world. I don't understand it.
It was on a green hill.
It's the dumbest end. And it's just like, this is good. It's like none of this had to happen, and none of it made sense why it happened. I feel like every person was piloted having an entire different backstory and motivations than the ones that you showed.
Any character that was not given an express... Oh my fucking god!
What?
I wanted to bring this up earlier and I didn't know how to. Joe's backstory is never explained.
No, I mean, I think that's supposed to kind of be the point, but I feel like they went a little too literal on, yes, he's no one.
And it goes a little bit further beyond that, because there were some, like, scenes where you could see Joe in, like, the city as a kid, or maybe it's just some other kid who happens to wear goggles when he walks around. I don't fucking know. But they had, like, this through line of showing this one kid wearing goggles. Never relevant.
Yeah, Joe is not a character, I think.
He's a being.
He is like,
just
you could have
punched the
replaced
guy.
Joe himself with just an automatic robot gear. And the only difference would have been that Nambu would have been like, man, for some reason I keep trying to get my robot to not punch and it punches. I don't like it. That's literally it. He doesn't have any special connections with anyone. The only thing he really does is get Yuri to act like an idiot. For no good reason.
Yeah, and that was simply as like I feel like it was it feels like Joe is bluffing through 90% of the show with the shit he says.
Yeah, but he never shows or acts like it.
Yeah.
He just always, like, he seems 100% serious, and then it just, he feels like a Deus Ex put it as a body. I don't know if I'm using that term right, but like, anytime the show needs to go a different way than how they have logically written it, they just decide to make Joe say something and everyone will just be like, okay, sure, I decide to act this way now. So for reference, I picked this show, I think I mentioned earlier, but I didn't have good enough words to explain it. I picked this show because, A, this is the first time we're doing a full recording and send up of this, and I didn't want us to watch something that was like more impactful or something we could have broken down a bit more and have it out in the open and be like, I didn't really talk about that as well as I wanted. But also because it sits between, like, it's bad, but it's not like boring bad. It's like, it is boring, and all the reasons you've made it boring make my head spin. I'm sorry, I went back to your episode 5 note, and I just see, in quotes, okay, no, fuck you, show. You do not get to have a moment of getting pissed at this guy. Yeah, he was and is a jackass, but this is not the way to go about it. You don't get to insert a new character and go, oh, you didn't see this guy who was reported dead and missing in action here. I didn't know you were that upset about it.
It was fucking dumb. They went at it for so long, and they were just like, oh, it's fine.
Overall, I think the show is a very weird example of something that felt like it was written by AI.
Oh, yeah.
I don't feel any creativity. I feel things are going through what they understand to be motions, and it doesn't know how to write a person.
It like that AI bit, it fits in so well. Like, you could have inserted the words, like, and then, but he took off his armor to fight the other guy because then it would be a true final battle. Like, that is how you write it as an AI, and I feel like that is how we got it.
Yeah, if you want to see a show that feels like it was written by an AI and not edited, Megalo Box is for you. If you want to save yourself some time and brain, there are other options. But I'm more curious because I forced you to watch it. Overall, what were your thoughts? How do you feel?
So, as someone who watched it alone as a solo experience, I feel like this show doesn't have enough going on to hold anyone's attention unless you're forced to watch it at gunpoint. It is on the boring scale of bad with some absurdity in it to keep it spicy. So I'd say 3 out of 10. Do not recommend. Perhaps if you are somehow comatose and you come out an amnesiac and you've never seen writing before, this would probably be pretty good.